Now we want to look at that drawing that will help you to learn the openings on the inferior view of the skull. So just like we did on the internal view, we want to name the bones. So this is a crude drawing done by me. So these represent the teeth. So this has to be the maxilla here on the anterior side. And each of these, the left and right palatine bones. This bone represented here would be our old friend, the sphenoid. We talk about him all the time. Laterally, our temporal bones. And containing our foramen magnum, has a little neck. This is the, occipital bone. Now from this view, we're going to start from anterior and work our way posterior. Now there is a hole, or two sets of holes that I want to discuss that aren't really delineated on here. Your incisive foramen can be found here, just posterior to your incisors, those two big front teeth. So this is the incisive foramen. And then in the palatine bone, on each side, you have your greater palatine foramen. As we work our way posterior, it's kind of hard to tell in this picture, but the skull kind of changes in elevation. So we're going to work our way down to what would be the greater wing of the sphenoid here. Now, from the internal perspective, we can see a lot of openings that are associated with the orbit. We don't see those on the inferior view. The only openings that we can see on the inferior view of the sphenoid are the ones associated only with the greater wing. And that encompasses the foramen ovale and our smaller foramen spinosum. Just like we saw on the internal view, we see that junctional hole connecting temporal to sphenoid to occipital. So we have, again, our foramen lacerum on the left and right. However, the next hole that we see as we work our way posterior, changes position completely. So this is our carotid canal. Looks like a circle from the inferior view. Now the carotid canal is what it says. It's a bony canal or a bony tunnel that heads through our temporal bone, particularly the petrous ridge, and carries our internal carotid artery towards our brain. So there it is on the left and the right side. We have our second junctional hole. We can see it on the internal view as well. This one connects temporal to occipital, and again looks like a jelly bean. We call it the jugular foramen. If we look posterior, but mostly lateral to the jugular foramen, you'll see a little tiny hole on the skull. And it is between two big bone markings, the mastoid process and the styloid process. So we call this one would be our styloid process, make it pointy, and our mastoid process here. So we call this one the stylomastoid, because it's between the styloid and mastoid processes, foramen. That's that little guy there. Of course, the big hole in the occipital bone is our foramen magnum, literally meaning big hole. And again, just like we saw on the internal view, embedded in its lateral walls are left and right hypoglossal canal, carrying that hypoglossal nerve towards the back of our tongue. Hope that helps a little bit, guys.